Things that I've always found interesting about women in relationships is their ability to pick men who, for long term relationships, who they don't really have any connection with sexually, who doesn't give them that orgasm. I've always found that interesting how that actually works and how it always plans out in a relationship and how it always ends the relationship or it's always over for all intents and purposes. Because something I typically always notice about women is their ability to pick men and try to shoehorn a man into a relationship and fall in love with a man who they don't have any, who they don't really get the tingles from, or not the tingles per se, but on their orgasm from, and they have to fake it with that person. That's something I found interesting. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that or ever really like ask a woman questions and stuff like that, and you know, ever had a woman lay on a couch basically and tell them their problems and stuff along the lines of that. But typically, a lot of women that are in relationships typically get into a long term loving relationships with men who don't give them orgasms. It's funny how that works. I'm not defending women, but it's just more or less the fact that it's something that I noticed in my 14 years. Um, but it's one of those things that can't be ignored, and it's one of those things where it's like I chalk it up to poor decision making because typically, if you're going to get yourself into a long term relationship, one or two things you don't want to do. One is have bad sex during that relationship, and two is, you know, um, life's too short just for bad sex, for all intents and purposes. But that's something I've noticed with women where they can literally get themselves into situations like that and not know why they're in those situations or not quite understand why they're sitting there faking orgasms when they should be having real orgasms and stuff like that. And the funny thing about that is they never actually settle down with the person who actually gives them orgasms. They always settle down with the motherfucker who doesn't give them orgasms, which is actually pretty funny. Because this is how women can say sex is good. This is typically how women could be in a say sex was good in a relationship, even though they're not getting orgasms. And the funny thing about that is, just because sex is good, that don't mean she's actually reaching climax. And typically, people conflate those two and try to make it sound like those two are actually mutually exclusive when they're really not. Good sex is good sex. Orgasm is an orgasm. Um, but one of the funny things that I've always noticed with things like this and how women react to certain things is their ability to want to bond with the person that they don't have orgasms with, or bond with the person, or have children with the people who they don't even who don't even bring them to orgasm. Like it's just the funniest shit in the world. And people always think, well, they're good looking, so they have orgasms. No, just because they're good looking, that don't mean they have orgasms. This is typically why women usually step out of their relationships on a lot of times. But I never really addressed it. But I kind of figure somebody else would. But you can't really rely on people to actually address certain situations. I've noticed, but I've often found it funny how that actually pans out and how it comes to fruition in a relationship on how women can actually literally be committed to like a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 year, 11-year relationship when in fact they're not even being fulfilled sexually in those relationships, or how they can be committed to like something that they're not getting any pleasure out of. It's kind of sort of the same way how women can have a sexual orgasm but then not be interested in the person after that. Or the person gives them sexual orgasms multiple times, but they're not interested in settling down with that person. Same concept. Even though we always talk about you want to be with the person who sexually fits you, typically a lot of women end up not really dating those people, or wanting something else, and then they find out that that person was the only one that's ever gave them a sexual orgasm, and then they're trying to look for that person or trying to chase that same orgasm that they had with that one person, and they either try to find that person or chase that orgasm, and they never really find it in their life, which is actually very sad. Women can have multiple partners and never really reach orgasm. It's sad. Women can be in relationships with motherfuckers for long periods of times and swear up and down they love a motherfucker, and they not have an orgasm. Women can also be in relationship with abusive relationships with a person and never have an orgasm in that abusive relationship, but they love that person. That's going to be their fiance or their husband, or stuff along the lines of that. Yeah, that's just something interesting to think about.